Alright, I'm gonna see what's going on with this. Alright, I'm gonna see what's going on with this. For some reason, OBS is like tweaking the fuck out. Which is kind of annoying. But let me figure this out real quick. OBS has been doing this thing lately where when I know how to use this software, fuck off. It's just not working. Kick is like having a fit. It's pitching a tantrum right now. For some reason, and I'm not sure why. It is, it's quite curious. It is quite curious. It is quite curious. Let me see if I can fix anything, because there's not, like... I don't know. Might have to just stream on fucking YouTube since Kick isn't working that well. Which is annoying. I really wish it was working well. Could have fooled me. Yeah, Kick's having some fucking issues today for some reason. So I guess I'm just streaming over here until I can make the second channel.
Maybe the worst part of all of this is that faced with the
Anyways, we're looking at Dr. Phil's fucking victims, not really victims, but like people that have been on his show before that you know, where are they now kind of deal. We watched a video first about how Dr. Phil's a fucking scammer. Now we're watching a where are they now kind of deal.
The horrific consequences of her health recommendations, and even with these two women crying in front of her.
This one is about the lady that was making people have a bunch of strokes. That's the one we're watching right now.
Jillian didn't even flinch. Nothing can deter her from her delusions whatsoever or cause her to even have a shred of guilt. She just blamed her own victims for not being dedicated enough to her advice.
So basically, all those symptoms reinforced your belief system that you're basically going to die from my protocol. So you basically just were like, you really didn't understand
Lift
my
more
protocol.
pussy.
If you did, you
Why is it
wouldn't.
all about you?
How dare you?
Because it is a protocol that you guys came to me.
Jillian claimed it would have been worse had they not been drinking her fermented vegetable solution, as if these strokes occurred by themselves and the Jilly juice actually prevented it from being worse. She would also post on social media about these two women, calling the strokes healing symptoms.
Lady, she went to the hospital because she had little mini strokes. And the doctor said this, and that. And he probably just corroborated with her because, you know, these hospitals want money. When you're dealing with healing symptoms, you're going to be doing stuff that that may be new because you've just addressed a future trigger.
Well. He ain't even a doctor. He's just Phil. Well, that's what the first part of the stream on Kick was confirming, is his whole Dr. Phil. He's been a scam artist his entire life. That was what the whole thing was about.
Surprisingly, two other women came on the show to attest to how helpful Jilly Juice was in treating their chronic illnesses. They didn't get a chance to...
Dog, if you go on a fucking juice diet and you still look like this, you didn't fucking do enough of the juice diet.
Go in depth, so if anything, it was likely the other part of Jillian's protocol that helped them, which prescribes a general plan of clean eating. Also of note was that one of these two women was giving the juice to her children, although thankfully only in small quantities. Dr. Phil also enlisted the help of the YouTuber Jeff Holiday, who had researched and covered Jillian extensively to try and talk some sense into her, but it was to no avail. Jeff and Dr. Phil both pointed out that she was making her advice even more dangerous by encouraging people to go off their prescribed medications in conjunction with starting the Jilly Juice protocol. Holiday also commented on there being a cult-like aspect to what Jillian does, in that anyone who has doubts or questions is promptly kicked out of the community.
To the haters that attack me, you can either join us or you can go and live your controlled lifespan and be sick for the rest of your life.
After this stellar
Pussy.
appearance, you wouldn't expect anyone to come within a 5-mile radius of this woman. But think again, business was still unfortunately booming for Jillian. The government can't properly prosecute her because she doesn't sell Jilly Juice, she just gives out the Krabby Patty secret formula for free. She does monetize her grift in other ways, such as by selling access to private forums and doing phone consultations. She also has a couple of books, which somehow don't help at all in illuminating the clear details of her ideology. Based on numbers she's given regarding how many people have paid for consultations and memberships for her site. Some guess that she made $500,000 in 1 year alone. So even with how low level and utterly incoherent Jilly Juice is as a grift, Jillian herself is still absolutely milking it. To this day, she uploads winding rants.
And she's fat. And she's fat now. Oh, I'm in the way. You can't see. Well, well, well. Well, well, well. You know what? Nah, I gotta play it. I gotta play it. I gotta do it. I gotta do it.
Oh, well, well, well. Well, well, well. Well, well, well.
Rants of up to 2 hours on her YouTube channel daily, with titles like Magic Kinetic Energy, Music and Trauma-Based Mind Control, and Dr. Phil Strokes, which sounds like the most cursed NSFW video ever. She's revealed some interesting tidbits in her videos, such as that the Jilly Juice recipe calling for a tablespoon of salt was a typo, and that it was actually meant to be a teaspoon. Also, after all this time, she realized she could switch from pink salt to table salt because it's cheaper. She admits she just went with pink salt in the beginning.
And she's fat. It doesn't work, obviously.
Because it was easier to market. As
Dog.
for what's happened to Jillian ever since going on Dr. Phil, recent developments include, but are not limited to, the allegation that she killed her dog. Yeah. This theory started when people took notice of multiple clips of Jillian discussing how her dog suffers from seizures, but that she refuses to take it to the vet. She also talked about how she was feeding it human food such as pizza, steak, and eggs, and that this must have been helping, otherwise it would have been much, much worse. Worst of all, the dog had a large lump on his belly, which people were speculating was a
People that are this delusional with other things should not be allowed to A, be in charge of children, or B, be in charge of animals, because they are inevitably going to do some fuck shit like that.
tumor, but she still wouldn't take it to the vet. This was all until February 2023 when it sadly passed away. Safe to say you should keep your pets and any middle-aged women in your family as far away from Jillian as possible.
Yep.
The next story is that of 19-year-old Ramon Fry, who, unlike everyone else we've
Ramon
covered, came on Dr. Phil as a victim of insanity rather than its perpetrator. You see, Ramon married his high school sweetheart, Shailene, and had a son with her. He had to move in with his in-laws because he had trouble finding work, but witnessed them subjecting her to verbal abuse. Over time, Ramon became the target of scapegoating and endured derogatory name-calling. Faced with an unbearable situation, he realized that he needed to leave the household and his wife. As a result, a custody battle ensued. The times he was allowed to see his kids were nothing short of arduous, due to his in-laws trying to find any small infraction of his conditions they could use against him. According to Ramon, if I was wearing the wrong color of tie, they'd call the police. It was a lot more ridiculous than it needed to be. Although Ramon had already moved out of the house, an inexplicable incident occurred one day while he was visiting.
And I bet you no one took him seriously for the longest time.
His father-in-law, Lester Earl Reger, requested him to bring his son through the garage entrance when he returned him at noon that day. The reason given was that they were currently cleaning the carpets in the entryway of their house. Ramon agreed to the request and entered the garage. When he arrived, Earl Reger, who had his hand in a sling and an ice pack on it, met him there. Earl claimed that he had accidentally injured his hand with a hammer and asked him to retrieve some wood plugs that had fallen under a table in the garage, which was entirely covered in plastic wrap. While Ramon was crouching down to reach the wood pieces near the wall, he noticed that Earl approached him. Quote, "I knew something wasn't right, and I heard this pop. It was the loudest noise I've ever heard in my life." Earl suddenly aimed a gun at the back of his head and fired. Ramon miraculously got up and pushed Earl away. Earl fired a few more shots, one of which struck Ramon in the hip. Ramon managed to flee the house, reaching the highway where he flagged down a passerby
What the
for
fuck?
help. Ramon later realized that Earl had employed a specific mob method, using a .25 caliber weapon that would lodge a bullet in his skull without it exiting on the other end, preventing any evidence that a gun had been fired from reaching the rest of the garage. He also deliberately aimed for the base of the skull to sever his spinal cord, ensuring an instant fatality. Ramon only survived because the gun was off by an inch, with the bullet instead landing in one of the thickest places in the skull. Earl and his wife, Erlene, Ramon Ramon's mother-in-law had prepared a hole to bury his body in advance, big enough to actually bury his car in it as well.
It's like the stuff you see in Hollywood, but it actually happened. They dug a big hole, actually big enough to bury the car.
What the fuck?
They thought about actually just throwing the whole vehicle in there.
As it turns out, Rieger had a criminal history that helped explain how something like this could happen at his hands. He had done the same thing 25 years ago. At the time, Ramon was
Watched way too much of The Sopranos.
only aware of the version of the story he had been told, which is that Earl and his previous wife Simone got in a scuffle and she fell and hit her head on the sink, suffering a fatal head injury. Safe to say that wasn't even remotely close to the truth of what happened.
This was not she slipped and hit the sink. This man beat her into hamburger. There was so much bruising up and down all over her body and so much blood splatter in the house. They went, you know those little UV lights, they go and try to scan the walls? They had a handprint from this woman that went down the front door where she was trying to...
So he beat his wife to death, and he went to prison for it, served time, and wrapped her up, disposed of the body, got out of prison eventually, then shot you in the head, planned on wrapping you in plastic, burying you. Now he's in prison for that.
Holy fuck.
A news article about the trial further describes the
And who do you think decided to let him out? Who do you think? Who you think decided that? I'm just saying.
particulars of this incident. Rieger pleaded guilty in 1985 to the beating death of his 27-year-old wife, Simone Rieger. Her body was found in the Snake River in August 1984. Rieger was convicted of first-degree manslaughter in a plea agreement with the district attorney's office. Rieger learned from that first incident and had prepared to get away with taking out Fry by covering the garage in plastic to hide evidence such as blood splattering in the shooting. He was caught on the first crime because his wife's body floated up. That's why he didn't use the river, why he prepared the scene. Prior to the trial regarding the attempt on Ramon's life, a dangerous incident took place in the dead of night. An unknown individual unscrewed the gas cap of Ramon's car, stuffed rags inside, and set them ablaze, seemingly with the intention of causing a vehicular explosion. The ensuing fire would have jeopardized not only the car, but also the house where Ramon was residing. Suspicion quickly fell upon someone with clear ties to Ramon's in-laws. During the trial, both Earl and Earlene were found guilty. Earl received a sentence of 130 months, while Earlene was sentenced to a mere 90. Both maintained their innocence during the trial, entering pleas of not guilty. Earlene's defense rested on the argument that the entire scheme had been Earl's idea. Earl, on the other hand, shifted the blame back onto Ramon, claiming that Ramon was the one who had confronted him with a gun, leading to a struggle where he disarmed Ramon and shot back in self-defense. Earl further alleged...
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, just as somebody who knows a good thing about guns and what, he said you don't, I've seen this be claimed a million times with a million different things. You cannot, if you, and I'm just giving you advice for anybody out there that wants to, because now this is going to go on the fucking YouTube channel and somebody's going to watch it eventually. If you're trying to get away with murder, don't shoot anyone in the back because they're fleeing or they don't know you have a gun. Fucking dumbass. If you're claiming self-defense, don't shoot someone in the fucking back. Stupid.
that he suspected Ramon of mistreating his own grandson, an accusation that was disproven during the trial. Notably, there were two additional individuals involved in this elaborate plan. Todd Mulvaney, acting as co-conspirator, had dug the grave and provided the gun for the crime. It was agreed upon that he would be paid $1,200 for his involvement. Another co-conspirator, John Fritz, testified against the others, providing information that was crucial to the prosecution. Ultimately, the evidence implicated a total of 4 individuals in this sinister plot to end Ramon's life. Ramon described experiencing symptoms of paranoia after all this took place, which is more than understandable, all things considered, though it was foreboding of worse things to come.
Since the shooting, I don't want to call it paranoid, but I have experienced certain tics. I really don't like when people stand over me now. If someone stands behind me, I'm always looking over my shoulder.
Completely
when I'm in the
valid.
classroom, I always have to sit to the rear. I can't sit up in the front. I can't leave a drink unattended in a room because somebody's gonna poison it when I walk out. And I know it's not real, but it still kind of registers back there in the back of my mind.
The custody battle was still ongoing after the trial, and Ramon's
got
appearance
shot
on
in the...
Dr. Phil and
he literally got shot in the back of the head. You let him do whatever the fuck he wants.
his final outcome remains unknown. However, a subsequent update on the situation emerged after a couple of years. Tragically, he resorted to a disturbing act on his college campus. he doused himself in gasoline and set himself on fire. Against all odds, he managed to yet again survive through this horrific ordeal. The police had received prior information about Ramon's mental health challenges, but they didn't classify the incident as an attempt by Ramon to end his own life. It remained uncertain whether this action was a result of the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. In a news article published a few weeks after the incident, it was reported that Ramon had made significant progress in his recovery. He was able to be taken off a ventilator, and his burns were gradually healing. Now, take this last bit with a grain of salt, but I was able to find one more link in Ramon's story, fast-forwarding all the way to 2021. There's a YouTube short by someone called Ramon Fry, and it does indeed look like an older version of him. The video is an application for the show Naked and Afraid, and in it, he unfortunately mentions he's been living with paranoid schizophrenia, but also that he's been dealing with it unmedicated. Severe trauma can contribute to the development of schizophrenia in those who are genetically prone, so this would make sense.
Wow.
As for Earl, he got back out of jail in March. This story is sad more than anything, and I hope Ramon can get what he needs, while praying that Earl is too old to cause any more damage to anyone else, though being 62 didn't stop him last time. Identity theft is an everyday occurrence.
He literally went through the delusion that somebody would usually suffer and like had to live it. That is the craziest fucking thing ever.
Result of scammers looking for a way to make a quick buck off an unsuspecting
Holy
victim.
shit.
However, what isn't an everyday occurrence is someone seriously stealing another person's identity without any clear financial incentive. Sure, there are a myriad of motives for doing so other than money, but they get progressively weirder. One such unorthodox manifestation of identity theft is digital kidnapping, where an unfamiliar person appropriates a minor's photo from the internet and presents them as their own child. They share these images on their social media accounts, deriving satisfaction from the attention and positive responses they receive for showing off their supposed kids. Sometimes specific hashtags are employed alongside these pictures to indicate to onlookers that the individual posting them is participating in role-playing and constructing a fictional world that is distinct from their real life. But sometimes they leave no indication that what they're doing is fantasy. Take the case of Ashley, who was featured on Dr. Phil in 2016 due to a family that, on the surface, she had seemingly no connection with. However, behind the scenes, her online presence was much more intertwined with theirs. You see, she was stealing pictures of this couple's children from Facebook and passing them off as her own, and she had been doing it for 4 years. April and Nathan had 2 twin daughters, Vivian and Sophie, who were 4 years old. But in Ashley's heads, their names were Adaya and Camberlyn. They were perfectly healthy, but Ashley's narrative was that one of them was suffering from epilepsy. Every single picture April posted, Ashley would repost on her own page with her own story.
She basically took my photos offline and made up a complete life of her as their mom and has a story to go along with every single picture with my girls.
When the girls were wearing shirts with their real names on them, she would blur them out. If their real mother April was visible in any reflections, she would blur that out as well. Ashley made a room with cribs which she painted the same color as the couple's own room. She went as far as framing pictures of the girls and scattering them all over her house. April and Nathan called the police on Ashley when they first discovered this, at which point they discovered that she had been previously arrested for burglary, assault, and computer fraud, and had spent time in jail for these offenses. However, the police said they couldn't do anything because, obviously, taking someone else's photos and re-uploading them isn't a crime.
She just wanted to be a LARPer,
they tried
bro.
asking her to stop
She wanted
before,
to LARP.
but she didn't relent.
My husband sent her a message that we know that she has stolen photos of our babies. He's told her that we contacted the police.
We never heard a response. We thought that was the end of it.
Ashley's narrative included the caveat that she lost custody of the children and her mother-in-law had custody of them instead, an excuse she evidently made up so she wouldn't have to produce the children if anyone asked her to, but she made comments indicative that soon that might change, which was worrisome for the couple. When April, Nathan, and Ashley all finally met for the first time on the show, it was nothing short of enthralling. Ashley had started by vehemently denying the claims in the pre-interview, claiming she did indeed have her own daughters, which were the same age, but that she wasn't stealing photos and had never even seen April or Nathan before. Problem was, on the intake forum, she slipped up and claims to have no children of her own. It was astonishing that when she was first brought out by herself and Dr. Phil asked her about her pregnancy and details related to it, she had explanations for everything. She knew exactly how many weeks pregnant she was and even the birth weight of her daughters, but all of it was fabricated. She also inadvertently admitted she knew what she was doing was creepy by answering a hypothetical.
How do you think a mother would feel if somebody was hijacking their children and claiming them as their own and putting their names on them and all that? I mean, how would a mother feel if that was happening?
I think I'd definitely feel possibly scared
Ashley surprisingly let Dr. Phil peruse her Facebook page live on the show to settle the matter, where he inevitably found hundreds of stolen photos. How she thought she was going to get away with it by just claiming she didn't know how all the pictures got on her page is beyond me.
Tell me who these girls are.
I don't know.
They're on your Facebook page. Tell me who these girls are.
My baby girls, Sophie and Vivi.
Apparently, she tried to clean up the crime scene before coming on, but she didn't have enough time to do it thoroughly.
And you deleted about 100 of them today.
I haven't been on my...
But you came to the stage before you could delete them all.
I haven't been deleting today.
Well, you've been deleting recently, but you didn't get them all deleted before you came to the stage today.
It's hilarious to watch her lie through her teeth,
Fat
but
fuck.
what's even funnier is watching Dr. Phil furiously yell at her while catching her in 4K.
I have tracked your digital footprint all through the internet. You decided to sell this lamp, and behind that lamp is a picture of their two girls hanging in your house. This is a picture in your house, and this...
Full disclaimer, we watched How Dr. Phil was bullshit before. He didn't find this. Somebody that he's paying to work on the show found it. Definitely feel possibly scared. Exactly.
This is a picture of you right here.
After the doc did some smooth talking to coax a confession out of her, she cracked.
I apologize for how I made you guys feel. I really do.
She gave the excuse that she was doing this to have the experiences she missed out on by not having custody of her daughters. But she was obviously still lying because she had no children to speak of. The show even checked in with her mother-in-law, and she had never even taken care of any children on Ashley's behalf. Even the police were able to affirm that she wasn't pregnant at the time she claimed to have been. At the end of the day, Ashley agreed to stop stalking the couple and to receive professional help.
And you absolutely will leave these people alone. Take everything down off of the internet and accept the professional help that we're offering here.
Yes.
We don't know what happened in her story after this point, but from the outside it was evident she was looking for attention and sympathy by doing all of this. How far she actually took her own fantasies inside her own mind is anyone's guess. Out of all of the frauds in this video, perhaps none spun a more impressive web of lies than Sarah Delashmitt. She would end up on Dr. Phil in 2019 after many, many years of lying to friends and family, defrauding any and every person or organization she could get herself entangled with. When her victims, who would appear on the show to confront her, started investigating her, they traced her fraudulence back to her losing her Oklahoma nursing license in 2014.
I don't know this
came
one.
about after she allegedly faked 2 separate pregnancies while
This one's
working in
new
a
to me.
neonatal intensive care unit. The second time, she claimed to be pregnant with twins, and colleagues said she stuffed pillows under her shirt and showed them ultrasound pictures of the babies. When she inevitably never gave birth, she told them the twin fetuses died. She would end up having nursing licenses suspended in Virginia, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Illinois. From 2015 onward, she started making claims that she'd been diagnosed with muscular dystrophy and spinal muscular atrophy.
I
Her
do
motive
know
behind
this
these
one.
false
This is the
assertions was to
wheelchair
be
lady.
eligible for a charitable camp named Camp Summit
I
in
do know this
Texas.
one. Never
This
mind.
camp is specifically tailored
I thought
for
we broke the
individuals
streak.
with disabilities. Allegedly, she provided someone else's social security benefit statements as proof of her income when applying to the camp. By deceiving others about her medical
She also knew how to get away with it because she was a nurse. That was the crazy thing too.
condition, she managed to secure financial aid exceeding $2,500 to cover the costs associated with attending the camp. Bethany was the camp counselor who was charged with Sarah's care and considered her a friend. She explained to Dr. Phil how she helped Sarah with everything since she was supposedly wheelchair bound, and this went as far as having to change her feminine products. The ruse at the camp failed when Sarah's local pastor showed up to confront her. The pastor, in conjunction with Sarah's family, were well acquainted with her history of fabricating stories. When they saw she was involved with the camp and found out it was as an attendee rather than a staff, he came to confront her. When this happened, she just stood up out of
Good
her
guy.
wheelchair and left. After her lies about having muscular disorders were exposed, Delashmitt took to falsely presenting herself as suffering from stage 4 breast cancer between 2017 and 2018. On her Facebook page, she would post about all her fictitious doctor's visits to add credibility to her lies. This is when she befriended another woman named Liz, who also went on Dr. Phil to describe her experience. The problems began when Liz started noticing Sarah was copying her mannerisms, hobbies, and clothes as if she was obsessed with her. On top of this, Sarah would message Liz over 100 times a day, under the pretense that she was suffering incredible amounts of anxiety and pain due to her breast cancer. Liz hoped she could help out what she thought was a poor woman suffering from a horrible disease, so she obliged every whim. Arguably, Sarah's most crucial mistake was when she lied about having a husband named James, whom she even made a fake account for. She used this profile to interact with Liz's husband, Brian. As James, she guilt-tripped Brian by saying he was sad that Sarah was spending more time with the couple than with him. I don't know what she was hoping to get out of this, but this obviously caused them to temporarily pull back and not communicate with her, especially because they were on a vacation at the time. Sarah eventually couldn't handle the lack of interaction and manufactured a story about being stalked by a woman who was jealous of her fake husband, which culminated in this woman supposedly shooting up a store she was at, grazing her with a bullet, and injuring 7 others. She was messaging Liz all the while, texting her that the cops weren't showing up, her phone was almost dead, and that the woman had a gun, all in an effort to make Liz concerned about her. This egregious lie is what brought everything crashing down because there was nothing in the local news about any such shooting. What made it so insidious was that Liz had previously confided in Sarah that she had lost a friend to gun violence, so this lie capitalized on her previous trauma to pull her back in. Truly gruesome stuff. As part of her cancer story, Sarah took part in the Young Survival Coalition National Summit, where she dishonestly obtained significant donations in the form of free biking equipment. To further perpetuate her falsehood, she wore a survivor shirt during the event and positioned herself alongside actual cancer survivors. DeLashmit managed to secure a travel grant to attend the summit and was even gifted an expensive road bike and cycling gear as a part of the Tour de Pink Survivor bike program. We'll come back to this later, because once financial fraud is involved, lying goes from a civil wrong to a crime. The full list of her lies to Brian, Liz, and Bethany alone are simply astounding.
I know a chick like this. Let's see. Flight attendant, daughter, met Steve Irwin, paralyzing anxiety, UFC fighter, husband, police investigation, FBI involved, stalker, tampered with Sarah's brakes, hit by a bullet, shootout, drives a Tesla and a pickup truck, ex-military fighter pilot with PTSD, suffered 2 miscarriages, 13 brain tumors, hair loss, stage 4 breast cancer, 2-time cancer survivor, has an older sister, gamma knife treatment, parents married 40 plus years. Damn, dog. They're fucking really doing her dirty on the parents being married. Shaved head in 2010. Why is that relevant? Fucking she did what? Breast cancer. She had Ebola, miscarriage, paralyzed, pregnant with twins. Olympic athlete, and she was on the ski team. Catfished a disabled friend. Wheelchair bound. Can't walk. Can't bathe. I can't read the other ones. Muscular dystrophy, sleep apnea, CPAP machine, paralyzed. Okay, so it's same shit. Just
when
over
Sarah
and
went
over.
on Dr. Phil to supposedly come clean about everything, she started by portraying herself as some kind of victim, which is never a good sign.
I have a lying addiction. The last 8 years, I've done all kinds of extreme measures to make my life seem more exciting.
She implied she had done everything for attention rather than any kind of financial
So she's
incentive.
bored?
And started by saying her first big lie was faking cancer, when, keep in mind, she had faked pregnancies even before that. She also blamed what she did on an addiction, as if it wasn't her fault or she couldn't control it.
I didn't mean to hurt you guys the way that I did. Just such a compulsion that I couldn't control.
Sarah, it's way more than a compulsion. I mean, even just on that video, you're saying it's just an addiction to lying. This is way bigger and much more sick than just an addiction to lying.
I don't even believe a word you're saying.
Obviously, things could never be patched up between Sarah and her victims that easily, especially since she wasn't being forthcoming with the truth. She had such a large impact on her friends' lives, as well as stealing time and resources from those around her who were truly disabled. This was not a case of spilled milk.
You ruined our life. You took me away from my life, my family, my other friends, hours every day.
You've infiltrated a sacred circle, and you are worse than cancer. Do you hear me?
Better yet, when asked what wrongs she had committed or how exactly she hurt these people she had called her friends, she couldn't muster up even a shred of a satisfactory response, making her come across as a bona fide sociopath.
What have you done to her?
I mean, just lying to her and taking her away from her family and her friends and, the stuff that she, work and the stuff that's important to her life as well.
You see the problem? Here's the problem. It's because she doesn't know how to stand in your shoes because she doesn't have empathy. And that's why she said, well, I wasted her time. I wasted her time. That's why there's no genuine remorse here.
Some speculate she is one, considering how she accidentally smiled while describing her myriad of lies, as if she were taking pleasure in an accomplishment.
It took a lot of mental brain power to have to keep up the charade. If you're playing, hockey and you want to hit the puck, you want to hold the stick and hit the puck,
They should have thrown some jabs in there, bathes regularly, has a great social life. Yeah,
can't do
exactly.
that. And you have this.
That would have been ideal.
Grab the stick and do it yourself, but you have to refrain from doing it.
After her appearance on Dr. Phil in 2019, she would be charged with defrauding 2 nonprofit organizations and taking up spaces at the camp and summit that should have rightfully gone to genuinely disabled individuals.
Jail,
in 2020,
bitch.
she would plead guilty to the charges, as well as confessing to obtaining a $5,000 bike for free by buying it, then reporting the charge as fraudulent. In 2021, she was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, and evidence presented at the hearing demonstrated that she had been conning unsuspecting individuals since 2006. She was released from prison in March 2022. 2022 would see an entire true crime podcast being made to cover her extensive history of lying, attempting to unravel her complicated motives in the process. The investigation covered other people she had lied to, which hadn't been touched on in the Dr. Phil episode, including telling people she was trapped in abusive relationships or that she was a mother who had lost her children. It's clear that she's suffering from a severe personality disorder or sociopathy, and whether she will ever truly get help or change her ways is unknown. I've been Turkey Tom. Thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
Turkey Tom, go check him out. He makes great shit. I love his videos so much. He's literally like my 3rd favorite YouTuber right now. Lately, I should say. Okay, so it seems like Kick is the only thing giving me problems, because OBS hasn't given me a single problem since I switched over to the YouTube streaming. Which is good, because I thought it was my network, but nothing else was having any problems. So, I think I might have to stream on YouTube from now on instead of doing Kick, which is unfortunate because I didn't want to do YouTube, but how am I muted? I'm not muted on my end. I'm not muted. Am I muted here? And then not here? There's no way I'm muted. Is it muted? There's no way I'm muted. It is muted. What's happening right now? Why is this happening? Hello, hello, hello? Hello, hello? Hello, hello? Hello, hello? Hello, hello? Is it muted? There's no way it's muted. I don't understand what's happening with this thing right now. Hello, hello? Is it muted? There's no way it's muted. I don't understand what's happening with this thing right now. Hello, hello? Is it muted? There's no way it's muted. I don't understand what's happening with it. Okay. What is happening? I know you're probably fucking with me and everything, but okay. What is happening? Why is it? My mixer's not working properly right now, though. It's strange that it's happening now. I'm not sure why it is. Okay, that should be vastly better, actually. So let's see if that works. Sure why it is. Okay, that should be vastly better, actually. So let's see if that works. Sure why it is. Okay, that should be vastly better, actually. Why is it? In looking for your falsehoods, I have found that my mixer is not working right. And that's why all of this is fucking tweaking out. And you're getting on my nerves. Was it wrong on the Kick thing, too? You may have just accidentally alerted me to something completely unintentional. Let me go back and watch the Kick stream again. Let me see. View your channel. Alright, everything seems to be set up. Oh, it was wrong on Kick, too. What the fuck? How does that even happen? So my mixer